Here's an interesting one, guys. We were talking about AI last night, and Phoenix Capital Research has an article out. The next round of AI-induced layoffs is here. The artificial intelligence revolution, if successful, will be extremely deflationary. Guys, this is the good news. Deflationary. What does that mean? It means everything's going to be dirt cheap. And while I don't think this is going to move in the linear fashion that people are predicting or projecting, because we always make predictions based upon the framework in which we are. And if you've watched our more mystical videos, you'll realize that there are time frames and there are timelines and there are different dimensions. We're not going to go too deeply into that in the Insomnia Podcast, at least not in this one. We might dedicate one to all of those spiritual matters, but you can watch the videos on the real Javier Novoa that go deeply into that. But these predictions are assuming that other things will be equal. Other things are never completely equal. Of course, in economics, we call this ceteris paribus. The ceteris are never paribus. So I don't think this is going to happen as linear fashion as they're saying it's going to happen. But yes, it will be deflationary for many immediate items, for many immediate products. A lot of products are going to become cheap. I was reading a diagram about all of the different AI enterprises that were founded last year, many of them by China, like Manu, like DeepSeek, and each iteration got super cheaper. Like one was $1 billion, then one was $100 million, one was $20 million. All of these iterations are getting cheaper. Of course, it's going to depend a lot on computing power. It's going to depend a lot on the data, because all of this is depending on massive data centers. So there are physical factors involved, but things are getting cheaper. Keep that in mind, because I think this is going to be instrumental to actually living free. Because what does it mean? It means the old view of Lysander Spooner in the 19th century. For those who don't know, Lysander Spooner was a great libertarian in the 19th century, and he actually tried to set up a business to compete with the post office, wasn't able to do it, but he had a vision that every man, every person could have his own small business. I believe that we're getting to the point where that's possible. Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week, he talked about hiring a virtual assistant. What if you don't have to hire a virtual assistant? What if you can have, for pennies on the dollar, something like an AI agent? We are definitely looking into that. We're going to be having videos on that. But back to this article here. We previously noted that numerous Fortune 500 companies are announcing large-scale layoffs. And again, this is a testament to the selfishness of these companies. They don't care about you. They don't care about their employees. So stop being beholden to them. A lot of people are even curtailing their freedoms. They're self-censoring. They're not speaking their minds. They're not speaking their truth. They're not living the life of their dreams. Even many people who have a lot of money saved up, because they're beholden to these corporations, while these corporations will just brush you off in the twinkling of an eye, ladies and gentlemen, once you're no longer necessary to that machine. It is a machine. So keep that in mind. And don't lose any sleep about immediately becoming free from this corporate structure, which I believe is going away anyway. And many people who I've interviewed on this very channel talked about the fact that it is a model that's quickly perishing. And I think for the good of society. Procter & Gamble is laying off 7,000 people, roughly 15% of its non-manufacturing staff. Microsoft announced it will be firing 6,000 people, most of them managers, and that's good riddance, because a lot of these managers, their positions have been completely unnecessary for many years, but they're simply there due to favors and kickbacks and so on and so forth. So I'd say good riddance. But if you're a manager, that's not going to be immediately good for you. That's why becoming free is going to be a priority. Walmart has said it is laying off 1,500 positions in sales, tech, and advertising. Why do you need tech when this AI self-programs? Of course, you're going to still need people on the creative side, but these people who are just going along to get along are going to be displaced, unfortunately. This is just the beginning. Ford CEO recently claimed AI could replace half of all white-collar jobs in the US. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy has told employees to Amazon will be shrinking its corporate workforce dramatically due to AI. And Shopify, Fiverr will not be firing anyone until they're certain that AI cannot do the job. And Microsoft just announced a second wave of layoffs, 9,000 workers. This is all deflationary, both in the good sense and the bad sense. The good will be that goods and services will be cheaper due to increases in productivity. The bad is that AI will also reduce incomes and result in higher unemployment. Indeed, unless all these CEOs are just pontificating, it's quite possible the job force will look totally different in 5 years. Now, here are the probable scenarios. A lot of people will lose their job, but that will lead to, of course, companies reducing their expenditure, and they can invest that money in more capital production. So, all in all, there will be more production, so goods will be very cheap. So, I see in the not so long term future that everybody's work hours could be reduced. It depends on how we play this as a society. Elon Musk said not too long ago that we're not going to be looking at a universal basic income. We're going to be looking at a universal high income. And that is welcome, ladies and gentlemen, because it means that you're going to be able to craft your life in the way that you please to craft it a lot sooner than many people thought. Of course, this is a double-edged sword, because what's going to happen in the interim? And what's going to happen to society in the interim depends on how we play it. Now, we see with people like Mamdani in New York and socialism gaining traction. Why? Because right now, people are not able to afford their basic needs. Even very educated people, well, quote unquote educated according to the system. So what are we going to do? Government's going to have to do something in the interim or risk societal unrest. Now, what can I do and what can people watching this podcast do? We can position ourselves, guys. There's still time to position oneself. And of course, we make a lot of recommendations. One of the best recommendations that we can make to position yourself is to educate yourself on some assets, whether that be crypto, because I've made a good amount of money in Bitcoin over the last 2 years, and I think it still has a ways to go up. Michael Saylor thinks that it's like buying a piece of New York real estate in the 19th century. If that's the case, you can position yourself to make a windfall. You can make small changes in your life now to adapt to freedom. And that's what we're going to be talking about very briefly with Harry Brown's book, that I'm just going to look at some passages of that. So keep this in mind, guys. For us, for the viewers of the Insomnia Podcast, this is actually simply another goad, another push, if you will, to actually make that commitment to live fully free. It's not like 20 years ago where everyone's going to be beholden to a corporation. Of course, many people are still in that mindset. I can't believe how many young people are still in the mindset of going to work for this corporation and we're going to get benefits. There are going to be no corporate benefits there. But I blame the education system. And I also see AI as able to counter this education system by democratizing. You no longer have to spend $80,000, $100,000 on university. You can learn this stuff on your own through AI and through a lot of free resources. So, but a lot of young people are still in this trap. A lot of older people are in this trap. Well, you don't have much longer left in the current system. People have been talking about this for years, and it's finally coming to pass. Again, I don't think AI is going to be this huge existential threat. I don't think it's going to change the nature of what it actually means to be human. Although if it does, there's possibility it might, if not probability, then we have to make the decision that we're going to remain human no matter what. Greg Braden the great scientist and spiritual author, talks about this in his book, Human, or I believe it's called 100% Human or Fully Human. I have to look up the title. But barring that, I believe this is a great opportunity for everyone to readjust. And all it takes in the beginning, guys, is a psychological readjustment. And we're going to talk about that here in a little while.